10-6 Life Factors welcome Roshaine Phillips. Roshaine Phillips is from the St. Thomas Parish in Surrey County in Jamaica. He is a pastor of the Seventh-day Baptist Church in Water Valley, St. Thomas. He is also a guidance counselor. He served for the infant and primary school, that is ages 4 to 12 years. Roshaine studied at the Jamaica Theological Seminary, where he obtains a Bachelor of Arts degree in theology and minor in guidance counseling. He explained that his work is an integration, and the principles of his work is an integration of theological principles and psychology theories. And I find that very, very interesting. Welcome, Roshaine.
Welcome. Thank you, Miss, for that introduction.
Very good. Is there anything you want to add to your introduction? It's very rich, very interesting background in terms of you being a pastor and a guidance counselor, and the fact that you study theology. Tell us more about that.
All right. So in my studies, it's not just about the theology, but the psychological aspects as well as the how we can provide intervention for youths and for children. It also entails training in understanding children and adolescents and how to deal with them. So it is not just about the theological aspect and the counseling aspect, but it's also about helping individual youths to find their purpose, to provide intervention for them, provide mentorship for them. And also in terms of my denomination, I serve in other leadership capacities, such as a part of the evangelistic committee, which is responsible for reaching out to the nation with the gospel, and also part of the Society of Christian Education, which deals with educating others with the word of God.
Very, very interesting. So in terms of the intervention, let's look at the intervention toward intervention techniques or strategies or program then that is designed to help the children that you serve. Give us an example of some of the issues that you're dealing with and the strategies that you're using to help them.
All right, so some of the issues are like conflict issues, behavioral issues, such as with COVID, coping with this pandemic. Grieving is one of the main things now. So in dealing with these issues, intervention has to be provided, such as mentorship, conflict resolution sessions. So peace officers are invited in. They will speak with the students or speak with the youths about how to effectively deal with conflict. Also, mentorship is provided to them. So someone is assigned to them to help them and to guide them into finding their purpose and dealing with the issues that they are facing. Academics is also addressed. So in the academics, we do seminars that will help the students with their study skills, exam preparation, helping them to be successful in school, also assigning a tutor to them that will help them balance their education, their academics, along with their life issues. So we know that some youths, they have a challenge with their academics, they have a challenge with different issues in their life, especially as this pandemic has so suddenly come upon us. Adjusting with the changes is another issue, making that transition. So programs are put in place and then to understand what the digital society is all about, the digital platform, understanding it, how to make the adjustments to it. So this intervention is dealing with the current issues that they are facing, as well as some issues that we may identify. So seminars are not only held for the students, but also the parents are taken into consideration, because effective parenting can help to deter some of these issues that our youths are having today. So the parenting seminars are done to assist the parents into looking at effective ways that they can be parents, being that parent that they ought to be, being that parent of example, that character, so that their children can model these characters, and eventually they will be better citizens in terms of what they do and find a purpose. Because one of the main things that motivates me is helping our youths to find a purpose. We all have a purpose, and once they find that purpose, then the goal has been achieved.
Sounds like an holistic program then. You're dealing with the academic issues, you're dealing with the behavioral issues, and you're instituting techniques and various strategies to help them. And of course, then it comes into where you're also helping the family, the parents in general, in order to kind of extend those skills that the children are taught, so that it can also be practiced in the home and the community. As you said, that you bring in other teams as well to kind of support and mentor within the programs that you do. You mentioned outreach in terms of some of the work that you engage in. You talk about outreach in terms of the church activities then that you engage in, religious education or Christian education, as you put it. Tell us more about that.
All right, so in the Christian education, this is where different Bible study programs are done. Again, the target for these are the youths. So we have different study topics, helping them with their spiritual growth, spiritual formation is the main focus. But not only that, but there are also youth webinars. So these youth webinars, though not attached to my work in the primary school system, but this is what is done with community members or community youths. So to help them to navigate through this time, helping them with their career, helping them with college applications, helping them to understand different things about society, how to find work, employment. So different webinars are done with our youths about self-care, health and well-being, and different topics. So based on the different needs in the community or what is affecting our youths, out of that topics will be chosen to address these issues. So webinars are done on a monthly basis, as well as there's weekly studying of the scriptures. Now, this study of the scriptures is being referred to as online searching the scriptures. So we come on the virtual platform and we are there studying God's word and helping them to understand it and also to apply it to their lives. So that is how the integration of the psychology as well as the theological concept will come in.
So therefore, it appears then what you do in the school setting also extends in terms of education and teaching and mentoring, extends into the church and the community as well. And so tell us about the population then. So for example, you're serving the 4 to 12 in school, and you're helping the parents of those children that you serve. Do you find that it's the same people that you're serving in the community? Because it could be, appears to be a small community, or you're going beyond the borders of your community.
All right, so in terms of the students that I serve, the 4 to 12, these students and parents are different from those that I will serve in my community. Those, because the school that I'm currently working with is not in my community. So it is outside my community. So when I serve them, it is different from when I will serve my community. The church that I work with as well is not in my community. So that's a next community that I will also help to contribute in their general well-being.
So it appears to me that this is an advantage for you then, that you get to spread out in this kind of way. It's not where you're just within one community and all of the intervention or engagement is occurring. You are serving different communities, and you mentioned your media platform. So it's almost as if anyone on a global scale could be part of
In
whatever
the global.
dedication. Yes, go ahead and speak about that.
All right, so since recently, so even though I've been doing all of this for a couple of years now, but since recently it has been on the social media. Reason for the social media aspect is because we're in a digital age. So the transition to the virtual platform. So different social medias has also been involved, such as Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter. So the different social medias are also involved in bringing across this. The Zoom platform, which is the main platform that is being streamed from. So with the social media, it now allows me to reach out to a wider population. So not just those that I will serve, but those across Jamaica, even across the different countries, will also have an opportunity to tune in to these sessions that will be an impact to them and to their communities, and at large enhance the productivity of the nation.
Interesting. So this brings me to one of the questions that we have here in terms of the work that you do. How do you know that the work that you do is an inspiration to others, or actually inspiring young people, inspiring the parents, and even the church members that you serve? How do you know? What are the signs and what recognition is there for you to, for this aspiration to be seen?
All right, so how do I know that is helping them is when I see the difference in terms of the issues that they are presented with. For example, earlier I would have mentioned academics. So you assign a student a tutor or a client or a tutor, and then at the end of the day, we see their academics improving. So from that stage of failure to success, we see students that were hopeless, students that did not know what to do. And after the interventive sessions are done with them, we can see the difference in terms of their behavior. They themselves identifying their goals for life, setting goals, working towards that. But the main thing is when they achieve that goal, and it helps to make the community and the nation even better. So the results are shown in the changes that are taking place individually and also collectively with these young people that have been reached through these programs.
And even for yourself, how does this work inspire you in terms of, okay, you're seeing the changes. It may not necessarily be across the board. It may not be reaching everyone in terms of the success that you may find in some areas. But tell us how, your own work, the work that you do, inspire you to continue.
All right, so I am motivated by these results that I'm seeing. So when you help a client and you see the change in that client, to see the improvement, to see that drive, they're finding their purpose. That is what motivates me, because my desire has always been to reach out to others to make a difference in my community and also in the country at large. So once others are being impacted, that's my motivation. Once I am reaching out to them in order to help to promote a positive change, that is what will motivate me. So as long as there are changes, as long as they are being reached, I am motivated to do even more. And as they themselves shows interest in these different activities, it encouraged me to keep on going and to push even further to reach other youths in order to make a difference and provide intervention where it is needed.
Roshaine, I am as well inspired by your service and by your commitment as someone who is in the business of advocacy and to inspire others to make differences in their life or their community. I am truly impressed by the things that you're sharing and what you've done and what you've accomplished over the years. For those who struggle then and lack the commitment, we talk about, well, you have success, you've inspired, but there are some people who are just, you reach them, but they are unreachable in a sense. And they lack the determination to overcome anything what we call incalculable forces. You can't see it, you can't even assess it. What is your suggestion or advice to these individuals using this platform, for example?
All right, one of the main things before I go into that is what guides me. One of the psychological principles is called the reality therapy. In the reality therapy, one of the main asset of it is that you don't give up on your client. So even if you don't see the change, same time, you still don't give up. Even if it take more interventions and there's no change, you're still going to keep on with them. You don't give up. Even to seek others to come in as well to help them to reach their goals. So what I will say to other persons, don't give up on your clients, don't give up on the goal that you have set for them. Sometimes it just requires that you change a strategy. So you might be using the same technique at all times, but you have to understand your client. You have to understand the situation. Once you understand the situation, then you explore, how can I be motivated to continue? Because sometimes we are discouraged, sometimes we felt like giving up, but we have to understand no matter what is it, we can reach our full potential. As long as we are alive, we have potential, we have capability, and you must understand that through Christ, you can do all things. So no matter what your goal is, you are able to achieve it. So don't give up. Don't give in. The obstacles will come. Sometimes it can be the lack of resource. Sometimes it can be what you want in order to be successful. It is not there at the moment. But no matter what, just keep pressing on. Because guess what? Failures will come. Sometimes we fall. Sometimes we may wonder what should we do next. But at that time, all you have to do is that you have a purpose to fulfill. So the mere fact that you are around is so that you can impact others. You can fulfill your purpose. So just keep on pushing, keep on going, keep moving, stay motivated. Don't let anything discourage you from achieving your goal. Again, I say, never give up.
And that sounds like the message to, to young people or to anyone on how to, build their spiritual foundation and how to lenses to look through in order to improve or to change one's life for the better. But let's talk, you raise a concept of reality therapy, which is, it's a psychological foundation there because it comes back to the individual himself, um, you know, kind of making a lot of changes within themselves and believing, trusting, the decision that they make and so on. But you also place God within the foundation of this. I think they believe in God. Can you explain that? Because reality therapy, the reality is, and then the fact that you're asked, you're saying, well, believe in God in order to do this. So there's another set of realities. So kind of bring those two together and help us understand that.
All right, so the reality therapy, I would have mentioned one of the main asset in terms of me as a counselor relating to a client. So me as a counselor, my thing is that I won't give up on my client no matter what. So I will keep on with that client until they achieve their goal. But the reality therapy different is when you look at the reality of the issues before you. So you help the client to identify the issues. What is it that they want? Where is it that they see themselves? So once they identify their wants, identify their needs, then it also involves putting plans. So what can we do to address this need? Again, the reality therapy is best with academics, for example. So you may realize that the client is not performing as they should. They're performing below average. So you see that there's a need. So the need is to improve academically. So after looking at the need, then you look at the issues. What is it that is contributing? So it can be environmental factors. It can be other issues within that client's life. So as from a counselor's perspective, there now you will make a plan. So it also involves coming up with a plan as to how we can help this client to reach their goals. So you set a goal for the client and then look at what steps or what measures can be put in. That's where the intervention will come in. So I may say, based on your issues, I will assign you a tutor. I may say, based on your academic issues, you may need to go into a mentorship program. So you client to what? No. So I will assign that client a mentor. So that mentor responsibility is to guide the client in achieving their goals and also to provide assistance with their academics. But sometimes even at the end of the mentorship or at the end of being tutored, the client do not reach their goals. The reality therapy now will remind us that we don't give up on this client, but we keep motivating them. We keep encouraging them. We keep supporting them until they find their full potential academically. So reality therapy is basically helping them to understand that one, they have a responsibility. So I use the example of academics. So they have a responsibility towards their learning. So as we give them options as to what they can do to be successful, they have a responsibility to move towards that goal. They have a choice. So it is not something that we're forced on them. They have a choice in achieving their goals. So the main thing, we don't give up, but we keep pressing on with them until they reach. But it also involves multiple strategies or techniques that is being used. So it is not one way at all times, but it's multiple interventions that is being done to help that client.
So yes, so the reality therapy is based, you're answering or you're exploring the who, what, when, how, and in order to get to that goal, as you mentioned. And you're also mindful of the realities of the client. You encourage a client to be mindful of their own set of realities and the strategies and techniques that you're talking about that is implemented in order to get to this could possibly be, well, let's look at your faith in God. Let's look at how using prayer, for example, as a model. If you're not doing well academically, how you can help yourself to focus and believe that despite the realities in the environment, despite the reality of the outcomes, whatever you try, you continue to believe, as I said, you never give up. So all of that is instilled, and that is such a very significant way then of helping students, of helping parents, especially in the academic setting, to reach their goals. So well done with that. And if, this is something then that could even be further advocated for in many school settings as part of the guidance council principles. If anything, it sounds very, very interesting, and the possibilities are there. All right, so let's look at, you talk about the realities then of someone's life. Despite the forces, the negative forces then, or whatever it is around this individual, what would you consider, how do you find a fulfilled life? Not just in terms of being a child between the ages of 4 to 12, because they're still in their developmental stages, and we all are, but those ages are critical. But even for families, or the 12 going into those critical years between 12 and say 18, how do they find themselves and become fulfilled in their pursuit of life? And what are some of the biggest misconceptions about life that you may come across in terms of the population that you deal with, in terms of the families, or even the work that you do in the church? What are some of the biggest conceptions? So let me rephrase that, because it's a lot that I asked you. We're looking at what it is it means to be living a fulfilled life, and what are some of the misconceptions that people have about life in general.
Right, so in living a fulfilled life is to realize your goals. So one is born and everyone have a purpose as to what they want to achieve or have a goal that they want to achieve. So a fulfilled life is one where you have set a goal for yourself, educational goals, and also your spiritual goals. Two main things that I will say that a person needs in order to live a fulfilled life. One is education. So you get that good education, you move on to the tertiary studies, you get yourself in a good job, and you are working with your family, and you are playing all the roles that you should, but never forget your salvation. So as you get that education and you pursue all your goals in this life, you also need God in the midst of this. So you have to be faith, you have to be purpose driven. You have to also have God in the middle, because guess what? We cannot fully reach all of these goals without God. If God is not there, then there's no way that we can reach all of these goals that we have set. So we have to allow him now to guide us. As I would have mentioned earlier, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So he alone knows the future. So all you have to do is allow him to guide you. So to have a fulfilled life, education and salvation is a must. Those two are needed in order to achieve that life. But there are some obstacles. Lack of motivation can be an obstacle. So for example, I can come to school, but I'm not motivated to reach my goal. So I come to school and I don't do what I have to do. And so I would basically say it in layman terms, I waste my time.
Mhm.
I try to pursue my own thing, and at the end, result in failure. Environment can also hinder one from living a fulfilled life, because if you are not surrounded by persons who will motivate you, persons will encourage you, persons who will not just support you in terms of words, but will also give you practical support, advice in order for you to reach your goals, that can be an obstacle. So you need others around you who will be there to drive you, who will be there to guide you, who will be there to counsel with you, to advise you, to help you. So also the culture that you are brought up in, the family that you are brought up in can be an obstacle. So in dealing with that, you need family who will be there with you, who will realize your potential and help you to feed that potential. So once I, for example, have a child and I realize that the child is good at playing football or the child is good at singing, one of my role as a parent would be to encourage the child. So each time there's an opportunity for him to play football or to sing, I will allow him to get into that opportunity. Why? Because that is how I get to build him in that area, because that's a natural talent. So your surrounding, your family surrounding, your environment, your socialization is important in living a fulfilled life. And then once you achieve these goals, it is important that you also help others to achieve these goals as well.
Again, we're coming back to the realities around us, and you mentioned some key pieces there about some of the misconceptions that we have about life, and the awareness of the realities that are around us in terms of not having the support, and we should be mindful of that by seeking others or seeking out others that will help us towards our goal and building. And for parents, it's also an admonishment to parents to build up their children's in terms of their talents and their skills, because that's another thing. And you also mentioned education is a key in all of this, because a lack of knowledge, a lack of information that will lead to knowledge, then put it that way, is absent from many of the parenting approach or the parenting style in some of our culture, right? And so you mentioned, for example, a child who shows or demonstrate talent in playing a sport or playing or singing or playing the piano or something of the sort. Some parents, unfortunately, will punish the child who shows interest in an area, um, and kind of, subside that interest and that passion in so many ways. So the message here then is, when we're saying, or we're not succeeding, are we paying attention to what is happening around us? Are we paying attention to our skills, or we're paying attention to our children's skills? That's what you're saying. And
Right.
that's key in living that fulfilled life, by the awareness, the information, the challenging to, to obtain, to getting our goals, and all those things. That is such, you articulated so well, and I appreciate you for saying all those things. What do you see then in your community based on that, where children talents are being developed or not being developed based on some of these misconceptions that are out there? What is it that you're seeing where you can look, explain this in two ways? One, where yes, parents are getting it, that they need to encourage their child and their talent, and on the other side, where they're discouraging their child from moving towards their talent. Talk about that.
All right. So earlier you would have made a good point in that many parents do not encourage their children in terms of their talents. And I think that is one thing that is lacking into the society, especially in my community. A person may grow up with a talent, and instead of encouraging them, supporting them with that talent, we do not do that. And guess what happened? The talent end up dies, and they did not have that fulfilled life, because a part of a fulfilled life is not just the education. I can have the bachelor's, the master's, and the doctorate, but if that natural talent that I was born with is not a part of you, then you cannot have that fulfilled life. So it is important that as that parents and those that are caregivers, they encourage, once you see a child displaying a talent, because these talents are natural, so we will eventually see them. Sometimes we use the term that is that them born with it. My born athlete, my born singer. So we say them born with that talent. So once we identify that talent, we have a responsibility to nurture it, to build it. It's like a tree. You want the tree to grow so that you can get fruits, you have to water it. Plant the seed, water it, allow it to grow and bear fruits. In the very same way, your child is born with that talent. It's like that seed. You have to water it, you have to encourage, motivate them, give them the opportunity, and that is how it will grow, so that later they themselves can make an impact in that area. Because guess what? They might have the education, but with that talent, they can use their talent, such as talent in sports or football. Later on, we realize that they become the next coach. Later on, we realize that they are representing their country in that sports. They are playing on the football. They are doing track and field. So they represent their country in that area. So all we have to do, it starts with us. Starts with our socialization. It starts with us encouraging and motivating them. But if we discourage them and we do not help them to reach this potential, then at the end of the day, that is why many of our young people do not actually reach their full potential and live that fulfilled life that they would have wanted to live. As I would have mentioned earlier, we all have a purpose. And once we see a person in that purpose, we have a role to support them, to encourage them, to be with them. So I fulfill my purpose. I encourage you in fulfilling your purpose. And then guess what? At the end, we are better family, a better community, and at large, a better society, because everyone is playing their role and function in building the nation. Just imagine if everyone was playing the same role. Where would we have the others, the doctors, the police, and all of these? So everyone have different roles, and we have a part to play in encouraging them, being there with them, supporting them as much as possible, and remind them that you have this talent, you have this purpose. We have to remind them that they can be successful in this area. And it also requires training as well. So even though you were born with this talent, you have to develop on it. You have to get some training on it. So it can be like a training course in that area, so that to build your skill set, to build your knowledge, understand the theories, understand how to do this. So you mentioned earlier about piano. You realize that you can play the piano from a tender age. You can do piano classes and build your skill set in that. Football, you go to the football training. So the educational aspect comes in as well to help you in building your capacity, because that is important. Our professional training and development is always ongoing, cannot be stopped, because we can always be better than who we were yesterday.
Yes. You talk about nurturing. You plant a tree, you have to water it to grow, and that's nurturing. You talk about talent, natural talent, and that is all part of living a fulfilled life, where we're doing some of the things that we're naturally, ordained or destined to be, but without the nurturing part, as you said, in terms of training and developing those skills, some of this may just go by the wayside, as you said. So it seems as if it's so important, that part of even the Christian education then, this discussion or the topic of nurturing natural talent become part of it, where parents are taught to recognize their children's talent and to develop those talents, versus trying to persuade the child to move into an area that the status quo suggested then. Oh, it's okay to be a doctor, but then the child talent lies in painting. It's okay, go ahead, you must be a teacher because that's what you should be. But the child's talent lies in not just being a teacher in the classroom, but being a pastor teaching in the church. So yes, you touch on, and I hope that anyone who watches this video can recognize that part of life fulfillment is taking your talent, moving it in that direction, teach your children how to nurture their talent, helping the child to nurture their own talents. And so therefore that they can live this fulfilled life, versus being burdened, by the misconceptions of life then, that you have to be something else. Yes, other than what you're naturally able to be. So let's look at self-healing, for example, where you talk about economic issues, socialization. We're not equal in those areas, economically, socially, or environment, or community. There's so many, family, for example, is a key piece that you mentioned, where it sounds nice, you're part of a family, but is that family supportive? It is a family that will help you attain your goal, or is it a family that will hold you back? Those type of things. So when you're suffering from certain inadequacies in your life, or betrayal, or just a lot of the uncertainties that befalls us, how do you find, what are the best approach to self-healing? And here I have some suggestions, like, is it, how do you go about, is it forgiveness? Is it, setting boundaries? Is it just, your faith in God and you leave it to God, that type of thing? In Jamaica, they say, just leave everything to God, that type of thing. What is your advice about self-healing, especially in areas where there's a lot of disappointments and we have to bounce back, find our resiliency.
As you would have mentioned earlier about faith in God, but we also have to be reminded that the scriptures say faith without work is dead. So guess what? Faith in God alone is not enough. There got to be a part that each of us as individuals play. So yes, you have your faith in God, you pray about the situation, but you still have a part to play. Forgiveness is a strong point because we cannot have that surrounding or that environment that we expect unless there is forgiveness. One thing for sure, none of us can truly avoid conflicts. So because we cannot avoid conflicts, is how we deal with the issues that present itself to us. And we cannot have healing on the inside if we are not living in love and unity. So forgiveness is important. Forgiveness, I must say, doesn't mean that you completely forget about the situation. Even though after a while you're going to forget about it, but it means that you don't pay attention to the situation. So you will say you forgive the person. So when I see you, I do not pay attention to that. Doesn't mean it's completely out of my mind, but how I treat you is not according to that. So one of the main things in order for us to have that environment or that family structure that we want, because we know that the family is the background of any society. So the first thing is that it must start from within the families. Once the families is being impacted or there's some change in the family, eventually it will show in the community and the nation at large. So it just starts with your family. Live in unity, showing forgiveness, living together as a bond, living together as one, as a family. And then that now will show in terms of how you deal with others, your relationship with others in the community. So you start to treat each other in the community as a family. So unity is key. Love is key. Forgiveness in finding healing. Because if we live in hatred and in division, then on the inside of us as individuals, there's not true healing. We cannot experience that healing on the inside because we are basically harboring negative thoughts in our thought process. And a part of bringing about a change, a part of healing is that we must have positive affirmations. And positive affirmations is not just about saying these positive affirmations, but it's about us living out these positive affirmations. So it have to do with an impact. So it starts with your family, make the change in your community, because guess what? If all the families in the communities were living together as one, then the whole community or the village will be living together as one as well. And then others around us, all communities will be one. And then we also have a better nation. So it will be a healed nation. So healing starts with me. So never it starts with you, it starts with me. So once I decide that I want to make that difference, then that difference can be made. Once there's forgiveness, there's also peace of mind. It's also a part of self-care. And we know that a part of healing is self-care. So we must forgive. It's not just about the healthy eating. It's not just about meditating or time for yourself. But imagine living lonely, living in depression. That's what unforgiveness can do. So it can even cause mental issues. It can cause you to, because you are isolated from others. Instead of you living in unity with them, you're living in isolation. But once there is unity, once there's that relation, then there is that feeling of accomplishment. Then there's a healing on the inside. So the change begins with me. And once it begins with me, I make that change in my family. My family in turn, it goes to the community and the community, and it make a difference in the nation. and that will make us now living in a more peaceful, in a more unified, and also to accomplish our vision of a place where we can live, work, and do business.
Good. And so you talk about forgiveness is not just saying it, but it's actually doing it. So it's doing in action. Then you are actually part of that. You also mentioned that in part of self-healing is or the lack of forgiveness, being unforgiving, then isolates us. So someone will say it's I feel lonely in a crowd, that type of thing, because you're so embroiled with whatever the experience is that has caused you to feel to be unhealed, then put it that way. And so the concept of self-healing is doing through forgiveness, through praying, through finding bonds, as you said, so that we can unleash. And it's not minimizing whatever the action or whatever wrong that has been done or whatever your perception of the wrong is. It's really for, as you said, did you say it starts with, could you repeat what you said? You said forgiving starts with me, the
Mm.
concept of me. Yes?
Because you will have to forgive the person first. So it's not about me waiting. For example, you did me something wrong. It is not about me waiting on you to apologize or you to forgive me.
Mhm.
I have to make that decision to forgive you. So it starts with me. And once I forgive you, then that also make the change. And then I can also use a Bible scripture in this instance. The Bible tells us that if a man will please the Lord, that also include forgiveness, it make even his enemies at peace with him. So if we truly want to live in peace
Yes.
and to make a difference, it have to start with me. And I have to be willing to forgive others and to live in a loving relationship with others.
And this information is not just for the adults, it's for even as young as 4 years old, all the way up, because you talk about conflict resolution being part of the strategies and the techniques that you kind of teach in your settings. And so even at that young age, children should recognize that if they hold on to anger, if they hold on to things that their perception of what is wrong, they themselves will grow up into adults, traumatizing themselves, because without having, without being healed, then it doesn't, in terms of the emotional scar that comes with, the pain, the psychological aspects of not being healed. It becomes so it's cemented into bricks, put it that way, um,
Mhm.
and then we waste our lives into go all the way into adulthood. So I would love to be part of your Bible lessons. I'm sure this is something that you bring scriptures into it, and that is also key, because you're part of the principles that you said, the religious or theological principles. You said faith without God, that
Mhm.
alone, it doesn't, faith alone doesn't stand. It has to be strong, strengthened within the belief that God will make changes in your life. Thank you so much for that. When we talk about forgiveness, and you talk about the action of forgiveness, and it's not just saying it, it's actually doing it. But we know that even within families or within the workplace, within school settings, especially now where we have, the concept of bullying is this thing among children and even adults and so on. Um, we continuously forgive. We continually forgive. And you mentioned also this process of we continue to educate ourselves as well, and through forgiveness we're educating, I guess. So, should there be limits for human compassion, for forgiveness, and what should some of those limits be? And think of it in the context of, people are doing things to you. Family is betraying you. You try to form friendships within your family, within your community, within the church. When do you stop? What are the limits to compassion? And what are those things that we should value most in order to make sure that we're not being taken advantage of?
All right, so in terms of set your boundaries with others, you let them understand what you stand for, you let them understand your principles. So that's the boundaries that you set. What is it that you stand for? But in terms of forgiving others, there's no boundary to that. There's no how much you're gonna show compassion. Compassion is something that you're going to show at all times. Again, I can also put in what the word of God says. When Jesus was asked, how many times should we forgive each other? It says 70 times 7. Simple means that we should always forgive others. And he said that's within a day. So compassion is something that we cannot be out of. Because guess what? All of us have done something wrong to others as well. And just also we would want them to forgive us, in the very same way, we must be willing to forgive each other. One main advice that I will give, don't hold on to the past, because you cannot change the past. What happened yesterday, you cannot go back to it and change it. But guess what? You can make better. You can make the tomorrow better. You can make later better. So just let go of the past and move on. Show your compassion, let others know your limit, let others know what you stand for and so we put it in simple language where you go keep up with. So you let them know that this is my principle. This is what I want to see. And in the very same way, you respect each other's space. You respect each other, because what you want for yourself, that's what you ought to display to others. Once they see that, then they will know how to respond to you in terms of your family, in terms of your church, in terms of your community, because they know you're part of this organization, they know your principle, and they know what is it that you stand for.
Excellent. So let's look at the church's role in the community. And, I've spoken to many people, and let's use Jamaica, for example, where some people, believe that the church community or the church itself, in terms of its leaders, are not doing enough, or doing enough outreach, doing enough community-oriented work or engagement to pull in young people, especially for them to be part of this, spiritual movement, then for them to accept the principles of faith and belief in God, in order to as a motivating tool and to find their purpose. From your perspective, and it sounds to me like your church is doing some interesting stuff based on your leadership role as well. But what do you think that is the church's role in the community, and are they doing enough for community members?
All right, a part of the church role is to provide social intervention, provide mentorship, provide support to community members, and them to understand how to deal with conflicts such as family issues. So also provide counseling to families, the parents, the children, and adolescents. In terms of what the church is doing now, I would not say the church is doing enough. So we have not been doing our job fully as what we are supposed to be doing, because a part of what we are commissioned to do was to go there and to provide care, to provide compassion to each other. So it's not just about the preaching of the word, but it's also about the practical aspect. How have you intervened in the different issues that the community has been experiencing? So we have a mandate to provide intervention and also preventative measures in our community. Intervention in that we look at the issues affecting our community. So for example, you would have mentioned about family matters. All right, so the church not doing enough. We'll have to look at ways that we can improve as a church in terms of how we reach our communities. So we have a mandate, a responsibility to reach our youths, to reach the families, to reach our parents, and to reach others. A part of us is not just about preaching the word of God, but it's also about putting practical activities or intervention in place. So part of our role is both interventive and preventative. Interventive is looking at the issues that are already existing in the community and see how we can reach out to address these issues. So for example, we realize that there's crime and violence in the community. What can we do to better this? What are some of the intervention? Is it that we need to meet with our youths? Is it that we need to do parenting sessions with the parents so that they can better parent their children, so that later they can become more productive citizens? So intervention have to do with the current issues that are in the community that we need to address so as to lessen the effects of this in our community. Also, the church has a role to do preventative measures in the community. So we may look at what programs we can do. So nationally, we may realize that this is an issue, but in our community, it is not present. We now will have to look at how we can deter this from becoming an issue within our community. So it's not only about intervening, but it's also about preventing issues that are affecting our nation from reaching us on a community level. As I would have said earlier, that the change starts with me, my family, and eventually it leads out to the community, and the community now will in part make a difference in the nation. So it is about providing mentorship to our youths. It's about providing parenting seminar to our parents. It's about providing counseling to them. It is about providing intervention to them, providing support to them, helping them to find jobs, helping them with social intervention, helping them to become a part of society, adjusting to society, becoming productive citizen. So it is not just about our mission of bringing across the gospel, but we also have a role to look at the current issues, life issues, and see what we can do as a church to address these issues, to deter these issues, to deal with these issues in our community and our nation at large.
So you said something key there. You said also if the community or if a community is untouched by some of the larger issues in other communities, it's also important to put in measures or preventative measures to make sure that it doesn't reach the community. But also as well, that community could be a model, by finding out, looking at some of the values within that community or the functions within that community to see what is it that they're doing, why some of the larger societal issues are not befalling the community. So it's not just always looking at um, the negative issues that may affect, but also the good things that are happening in the community so that it can be replicated in other communities as well. So listen to this question. We know that, especially in the Jamaican culture, religion plays a large role. In today's culture, however, there's a lot of negativity, especially with this pandemic has caused that, about the church's role in terms of even the physical building itself that we travel to, that we visit in order to pray and commune and fellowship and so on, is becoming this thing, a symbol of unnecessary need, meaning, do we need the building? You know, that kind of thing. So the argument is then, why is it that money, it seems, has become the main medium of church going and church activities, um, among church leaders? And how do you get, especially young people now who are so skeptical of church going and participating in church activities and so on, and giving of their tithing and offering and so on, to be involved? What can you say about that?
In terms of church funds, it's our finances in church. One of the main things is help with these interventions. So the different outreach ministry in a community, we know that it will need financial support in order to carry out these activities, because our mission is not just about the four walls. You would have mentioned about the church building. The church building is just a place where we meet, but that is not where our mission lies. Our missions really lies within the community. Our mission lies within the nation. So it is about reaching out to the community in order to reach the youth. So we have to do things that will target, and we have to come down to their level. So come down to their level, understand them, understand their issues, understand who they are, so that we can effectively put programs in place in order to reach them. And we know that those programs will need resources in order for them to be carried out effectively. So that's all the financial aspect, as you would have mentioned earlier, would have come in so as to make those a success, because it's not about us, but it's about our community. It's about the betterment of our nation. It's about providing intervention, as I would have alluded to earlier. It's about providing preventative strategies in place. And these things will require financial support in order to get this done.
So we know we're talking about religion in a broad sense, but let's look at religion in the specific sense where someone is practicing a specific religion, like being a Seventh-day Baptist, and there's certain, in terms of the doctrine and the beliefs, about tithing and offering. And there are people or naysayers on the outside, then, for example, or even some in the inside will say, why is it always about money? A church building fund, building at four walls, as you said. And then they will look at some of the external happenings where you have, for example, people moving from the dancehall movement in Jamaica, for example, into religious movement, and it has become a money making exchange type of thing, where they're like building a brand around religion. So the same type of marketing strategies that we're using in the dancehall movement, they now take that, saying that they're born again Christians, or they're moving into a new arena in their life, and bringing it, using it, the church as a foundation for this change. So people become skeptical and say, wait a second, are we using religion in this specific sense then as a form of capitalism, as a money-making tool? I go to church, I give my money, and somebody gets rich. They get to, buy the house, buy their car, build this magnificent building, and yet the community engagement is not there. The changing of lives are not part of that greater engagement, and so on. What do you say to those individuals? Because we're in such a rut today when it comes to this. Because when we talk about God, people are finding God forms or God-like image then in so many other things except God Himself.
All right, so you raise a very good point there. One of the things is that if you're using religion for monetary gain or popularity, my opinion, that's a wrong motive. If that is the motive for doing it, that's not the right thing that you are doing. So one may say, all right, I'm coming into religion, or I am turning over to religion because I want to make more money. If that is your motive, then that is wrong. The money that you receive, as I would have said earlier, is in order for you to make an impact in your community, to provide those intervention in your community, to reach out to the youth, to reach out to others within the community. So it is not about your personal gain or you being a popular figure, you being a wealthy person. It is about what are you using it to reach others? Are you using it to change the lives of others? Because what we have to understand, church is not a business. We have one role, and that main role is to glorify God. And a part of glorifying God is that we must make a difference for Him in the community that our church is situated in and at large in the nation. So it is not about what I can gain. If it's about what you can gain, then simply term, you have the wrong motive.
Okay.
The right thing to do.
Roshaine, look at it. Let me hear your perspective on this specific part, because it's actually an issue. And if you're on social media, you know that this is an issue that is coming up, especially among, what we call Jamaican Twitter. They talk about that. What do you think? Why do you think that young people then? It may not be happening in your community. And I keep emphasizing this because it is so critical. When we talk about young people needing that guiding principle, they need a platform, they need that foundation and spiritual guidance. But however, it seems as if, especially within the last 20 years or so, research will support all of this, and there's so much information out there, that young people are not as are frequent visitors or frequent members of churches, largely because of these ideas around money and what the church, the role, the limited role or the weak role that the church is playing in community and among young people. So versus answering it in a general sense, can you answer this in specific? For example, tell me about the population within the church you serve and what you'd like for it. And in comparison, I mean, not that you're making a comparison between your church, but just in comparison, okay, my church have young people or not, with some of the other churches that you may have visited. What is going on with young people that they're not being engaged or, flocking to your church, to these churches?
All right, I think one of the main things is a lack of motivation, things that are not so appealing. So the activities that may done within the church, they are not really appealing to our young people. So eventually they try to go other ways to find things that will appeal to them or get their attention, things that they will enjoy doing. So I think one of the things the church needs to do in order to reach more young people is to get down to their level, as I would have said earlier. So get down to their level, find out what are the issues affecting them, find out what is it that they want to see, and then put in plans for that to address those issues. Also, fun activities, entertainment. So entertainment is also key, so that they themselves can be entertained, they themselves can have fun while worshiping. So it is not just about coming and just do the traditional things as we used to, but we'll have to look at what is happening in the community. It goes back again to understanding them. So we have to understand them, what is it that they want to see, and put that in place so that we can attract them more. Just as for the entertainment sector. What does the entertainment sector use to get them? We may see that they may have concerts, they may do some activities. Then we see what now can we get, what ideas can we get as a church in order to get our young people to be involved the very same. So it is about us understanding our young people and see what we can do to reach them, put things in place. Also do a little background. find out why is our young people not attending church, and then we can get from their perspective what is it that is affecting them, and we can see what we as a church or as adults can do or put in place in order to reach them.
Roshaine, you've shared a lot. You've opened anyone who watched this interview. I'm sure that you've provided a lot of new information to them. Sometimes because as I said, I talk to a lot of young people, and these are not some of the things that they talk about. So I just have to give you kudos for that. You've shared a lot. So final question. What are your thoughts? What are your final summary? What is the takeaway from everything that you shared, to someone that is listening to you?
All right, so one of the main things that I'd want to advise such persons, one, never give up. Know that you have a purpose. Know that no matter the goals you set, you can achieve your goals. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Feed your talents, nurture them, and not just your natural talents, but I can also say to a Christian, your spiritual gift is also important. So you can feed same, build on that, make an impact in your community. Remember, the change starts with you. So don't wait on others to make the change. You go ahead, make a difference in your home, make a difference in your community, make a difference in your nation. Wherever you go, what school you go to, the workplace that you're part of, the community that you're part of, whichever place, others places or institutions that you may be associated with, go there, make a difference, make a change, make an impact in your nation. And once you do that, we will have a better society. And the change, again, I say, begins with you. Never give up on these goals, but keep on pressing on towards the end.
Roshaine Phillips of BART, St. Thomas in Surrey County, Jamaica. Thank you so much for sharing today.
You're welcome.